Welcome back to another Experts in Fire podcast. I am Mike Bernard, your host, and today's episode is finding the right location to install a fireplace, gas versus wood. Let's get into it. Hey Randy, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing awesome today, Mike. How are you?
I am doing well. It's getting crispy and cold up here in the beautiful state of Michigan. I see you have surrounded yourself with fire.
I am on fire today, baby. It might be 29 degrees outside, but it is hot inside.
I know our listeners can't see what we see, but we have become masters of these backgrounds for Zoom calls and for Teams meetings and all this good stuff. And Randy has nothing but fire for his background, big flames all around him. So
yeah, fair being good for today's topic. We're going to talk about fire.
Well, I'm glad we are talking about location of fireplaces today, because I feel like it's one of those things that, especially when we work with designers, they're so creative, but there are certain rules that play into where you can put things. And I mean, we try and work magic, but we can't work miracles all the time. So let's jump right in, Randy. When it comes to installing a fireplace, and I broke this question down in my head, gas versus wood. When you're looking at installing a gas fireplace, what are some things that people are going to need to know? Because usually, especially with apps now, right? We're in the e-commerce world. People love those apps where you can take a picture of your room and then place that fireplace wherever they want inside the room and go, oh, it's going to be beautiful there. And then they call us and we're like, yeah, what's behind that wall?
Right? No, exactly. Gas is a little bit more forgiving, of course, based on the installation versus a wood-burning fireplace. What's nice about doing something like in a gas fireplace, you have a couple different options. Depending on what part of the country you're in, you could do something as easy as a vent-free that doesn't require any chimney, as long as we keep it, out of the bedroom. There's some limitations there with bedrooms, but there's no chimney requirement for a vent-free. So placement and something like that is really coming down to the calculations of the room space and sizing the fireplace correctly for that particular room. We don't have to worry about going through the roof or venting through the sidewall. Something with a direct vent, which is one of the more common fireplaces being installed into newer construction, is you can vent it through a roof and through a sidewall. So direct vent is what they use is they use a coaxial vent pipe. So it draws air from outside through the outer layer pipe, exhausts the flue gases from the interior pipe. Okay, with those fireplaces, let's say that we're putting it into the middle of the room and we can't go through the roof because we're a two-story house. We want to make sure that we can get to the outside wall. There's going to be some requirements there, meaning you may have to go so many feet vertical to go X amount of feet horizontally. Then there's what they call, you have, like a 1/4-inch rise per foot. So we want to make sure that we have those calculations. But there's a lot of opportunity there with the direct vent gas fireplace, many different options, and then the venting runs are just going to be based on the size of the fireplace and in the location. The location in a lot of the newer homes I'm finding they're putting them on outside walls. They might be splitting windows just from an aesthetic standpoint because they're putting, and so the fireplace is just a divider between looking outside left and right. You've got these big, huge windows. There's definitely a lot of places you can put them.
You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast. I just quickly wrote down, when we started talking about this question, I wrote 3 things down: venting, windows, and traffic. When it comes to gas, I'm glad you brought up the collinear venting because most people don't understand that there are two vents going on. Well, there's a feeder and then there's the exhaust when it comes to your direct vent fireplaces. But venting, as soon as you open the manual of a gas fireplace, a direct vent gas fireplace, there are rules to how close to windows they can be. Decks play a part. If there's a deck off that back wall, how high up above the deck. If you're trying to go below a deck, because you have a second story deck, where can that venting go? You also need to be cognizant of the fact that that venting is going to be hot. So you want to make sure it's not in a place where anybody can touch it and burn themselves. So, immediately I start thinking venting, and then I start thinking windows, because windows play into, how the air in the room is going to flow. As well as there are rules inside of that manual that are going to tell you how close to a window you can even be. And then the third one was traffic. First thing we think of with vent-free, Randy, is no, you can't put it in a bedroom, right? And then we start talking about cubic inches and how big is that space, and there are formulas involved with that. But then you also want to think in terms of, is this going in a high traffic area, number one, because of heat, and number two, because if there's let's say a door close by and people are going to be coming in and out of a door, how's that going to impact your flame? How's that going to impede the flame? Because we have to think about things like carbon monoxide and just exhaust when it comes to vent-free is coming straight into the home. So there are a lot of things to think about there. I would definitely, when it comes to gas, you need to have a pro on hand and be asking these types of questions. That's really the purpose of a lot of these questions that we talk about, is to help educate our customer, but also help educate our pros, so that when they walk in, because they run into the same things we run into, right? That person who's just sitting there going, man, wouldn't it be awesome to have a fireplace right there?
Oh yeah.
And then it's,
oh yeah, right there in the middle.
right.
Find out from the design spot, it looks amazing. From a functional and an installation spot, it doesn't sometimes fit the footprint of what's going on there. So
absolutely. So our encouragement would be, give us a call. If you're already working with a pro, you can have him on the phone, he or she on the phone, and we'd love to walk through with them, as we are experts in fire, but we also pride ourselves on being the experts in the product that we offer too. So finding the correct product that will be the solution for what you're looking for is definitely something we can work with. Give us a call and we can help walk you through what your clients are asking for, or even better yet, well, a lot of times we work with our pros and they're working with a designer of some sort, and we can help them understand what that designer's looking for, if there's a product out there that exists, or even help back them up to say, no, you need to let the designer know that's just not going to work. You can't exhaust down into the basement, brother.
yeah, right. We don't want to do that. Yeah. There's a lot of things to consider when you're placement of a fireplace. The big thing right now is putting TVs. Everybody wants to put a TV above the fireplace. So that is another thing to consider when folks are looking at, like, the gas fireplaces, for example. They may need the extra height above their fireplace for that TV. So that might determine what wall it's going to go on as well, because there's going to be some clearances that have to be met there. So it is important to cover all those aspects of placement, because it is important to make sure that everything's going to work.
Just for our listeners out there, one of the lines that gets used, people will call and say, can I put a TV above this? And you know what? We might do an entire episode on this, but the quick line is, you can put whatever you want above it, but it's not the fireplace manufacturer's warranty that's going to cover your TV when it cooks up there. So really check with your TV manufacturer. They are starting to put into their manuals how far away from a fireplace their TV may need to be, or they're just putting in there, your warranty's void if you put this above a fireplace. Now there are mantle things, and that's why I say we could do an entire episode on that, and how to protect that TV. But when it comes to placement, dream. My encouragement is dream. There probably is a solution, but It really does take some time, and I want to open everyone's minds to the fact that it's going to potentially change what you're trying to accomplish inside that room. So give us a call, and we'd be happy to talk about it. Now, the next one we were going to talk about, Randy, was wood burning.
Correct. Yeah, wood burning fireplaces.
So if I'm trying to find the right location for wood, this really changes everything when you go from gas to wood. What would the major differences be?
Well, with wood, the primary difference is it's a vertical installation only. So it is going to have to penetrate, it's going to have to go through the roof or a vertical. So when I say through the roof, we're talking somebody wants it to be in the center of the home and in the middle of the room, in the middle of the house. So we'll use like a single story ranch. That's typically not a problem. We can just go vertically. We pass through the attic space through the roof, and that's venting is good. We're good. Where it gets challenging when we have a lot of 2- and 3-story homes these days. So in a case like that, most of the designs these days are putting that fireplace on an exterior wall. The builders are building a bump out specifically for the fireplace and a insulated, what they call chimney chase, that runs the whole external of the house. And that could be anywhere from, 16 to 30 feet high, depending on the structure of the home. We can't run a wood-burning fireplace horizontally through the sidewall. It has to go vertical. So placement of a wood-burning fireplace is real important in a case like that. Now, I was at my niece's, and her fireplace is in the middle of a room. It's a wood-burning, and it's a 2-story house, and it's running vertically up through the roof itself. But they have like this internal chase that separates. It's part of the design. So it is possible to do that within inside the structure of a home. It just has to be thought of on the front end because you have to build what's called a chimney chase internally now versus externally for that pipe to go through. If we have rafters or trusses that we have to get around, there are like 15 and 30-degree elbows that can manipulate and get around those things if need be, but we do have to go vertical. So definitely a lot more thought has to go into the fireplace placement.
Walking in and you're talking about placement, number one is going to be venting. Gas gives you the ability within parameters, specifics, gives you the ability to go horizontal if you need to, whereas you're right, wood is going to naturally draft, it's going to naturally vent, it has to go up. Heat is not going to, and smoke, they aren't going to travel sideways just because you give them a hole. They're going to find the best way out of there.
Right.
That's number one is venting. Number two, and some people don't think about this, is draft. These units nowadays, especially with the new EPA regulations, you need to have a good enough draft to be getting oxygen to, that fireplace. And there are options for that, right? There are opportunities for outside air kits. There are opportunities to get the fuel, which is oxygen, to the fire itself. But if that fireplace is starving for oxygen, the flames will wick into the room, the smoke will come into the room. So you want to make sure that you have airflow. It's getting the oxygen it needs, but that airflow is going to push up the chimney. And then I think clearance. A wood-burning fire is always going to be hotter than a gas-burning fire. So you're going to have specific clearances. And Randy, you hit that. As soon as I puncture the ceiling to get the pipe into the attic, I live in an old stick-built home from 1973, and it everything's pretty standard, but you look at the pipe sizes on some of these wood-burning fireboxes, and I just stare at them and go, wow, how is that ever going to fit up and through the roof?
Yeah. When you're doing a remodel, absolutely. I'm working on a couple projects right now we're doing 72-inch wood-burning fireplaces. And it is on the front end, meaning that it's newer construction, but we're looking at chimneys that are 30 feet, just over 30 feet. And on a 72-inch fireplace, it requires 2 14-inch diameter vents that we have to pass through. And so in an application like that, this was very important placement-wise for a couple reasons. he can't use, because it is an interior part of the house, we cannot use outside air intake kits because it's so far from the outside wall. So we're actually having to use power chimney fans on the tops of these fireplace stacks so that he has a constant positive draw so that he doesn't have any type of drafting issues like you were talking about. So when it comes to wood burning, those are some important things. And this is an open wood burning fireplace I'd like to mention because there are high efficiency sealed style fireplaces that do operate differently where you wouldn't be able to do like the chimney fan type of thing on.
Right. Those are some good points. So, immediately, I think of my own projects and, trying to get a 14-inch pipe up and through, you have to re-engineer trusses and different things. So you start talking about new builds, and this is why it's important inside of a new build. If you're going to do a centerpiece of sorts, you want to make sure it's a part of the engineering process because they're going to engineer trusses around where those pipes are going to be. They're going to need to know where they are, or else you're going to end up with this truss or board trying to run right through the middle of where those are supposed to go. And if you can avoid offsets inside of a naturally rising venting system, that's a huge win because the straighter shot you got going up, the better that thing's going to draft and the better the fire's going to look. That's just the beauty of it.
Absolutely. And then, one thing we really haven't touched on yet is with the placement of a fireplace, whether it's going to be gas or wood, the end result design for like a gas fireplace, if you're doing we'll call it a stone facade, there might be some weight restrictions based on where your placement is. Or if you're looking to do a wood burning fireplace, like I mentioned, the 72-inch unit, we'll call it the chassis, the firebox, just the structure of the fireplace alone is about 4,000 pounds. So then we have to consider the placement of, do we have enough structure underneath? Are we using engineered floor choices, or is this going to be a concrete slab? There's some things to consider also in the weight of all the subfloor area as well for the placement of that fireplace.
Yeah, so exactly, Randy. Look up, right? But when you're placing it, look up. How's this thing going to vent? But then that's a great point. Look down as well because this has to be supported. These are not light features. And I know most people think, well, it's just a metal box. It sounds, I don't know if you're talking modular masonry, huh? On those 72-inch ones or?
Well, yeah. So there's a couple different things. You have like your direct vent gas fireplaces, or those are going to be metal chassis fireplaces. They're going to fall in the range of, we'll call it like 300 to 500 pounds, maybe a little bit more. It just depends on how big of a unit you get, because they do in some cases have what they call a refractory fire brick inside of them. But then there's also prefabricated metal wood burning fireplaces, and those are going to fall into that same weight range, and we'll call it, the 300 to 500, 600, 700 pound range. But then you also have modular direct vent fireplaces, which is modular, meaning it's a precast material, a blend of some type of lightweight material with concrete. And they make direct vent units like that could weigh a couple thousand pounds. And then our modular wood burning fireplaces that, you can get into 72, 96 inches. Those could weigh up to 6,000 pounds just for the chassis itself. So,
and that's before you stack chimney on top of it, right?
Yeah, that's before the chimney and before your finished wall. So in a case like my uncle has a wall going up the side of his cathedral ceiling, open rafter, probably 20 feet high, all stone. And I bet you just the stone alone probably weighs 5,000, 6,000 pounds. So then when you add a fireplace on top of that, now just using a modular at 72 plus 5, you could have 10, 12,000 pounds of weight there. So, it's important. It's something to consider when placing and designing of where you want that fireplace, because you might have to pour a footing and a slab to support it versus putting it on a wood floor.
Yeah, those are great points. Great points. Randy, is there anything else you would want to add when it comes to placement of a gas or wood burning fireplace?
No, I would just like to kind of reiterate what you had mentioned about the direct vent. The venting part of it when you're side venting from a safety standpoint is super important. From kids running around, we want to make sure that that vent's high enough. The code might say if if it's in a basement and you're coming up through that basement and you're poking outside, it might be 12 to 18 inches above grade. However, if it's an open area, we don't want it at 12 inches where, the little ones are out there playing and they kick a ball and they can get burnt because it'll peel the skin. So we want to make sure that that's high. And as you mentioned, each direct vent has clearances to overhead for soffits, decks, windows. So just be kind of where those placements are at. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of good information here on placement. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call, shoot us an email, reach out to us here at the podcast. One of the things we do love to do is answer questions for our listeners. Randy, I really appreciate you being here, man, and sharing the information that you have inside your head, brother. I know our listeners really love it. So thanks for taking the time out from what you do every day for being here, bro.
My pleasure, my friend. I love it.
As a matter of fact, today we have a question from one of our listeners, so I'd like to jump into that right now.
Fantastic.
Our question today comes from Tom in White Lake, Michigan. Let's get Tom an answer, Randy.
I want to know if I can use a vent-free fireplace insert in a vented fireplace. Thanks.
Okay, Randy. So can I use a vent-free fireplace insert in a vented fireplace? What do you think?
Oh, that's a doozy. Yeah, man. Good thing I'm on fire today. So it is a common question. There's no quick answer to it. And the reason being is this. So the question was, about putting an insert into a vented fireplace. The word insert gets used kind of generically for everything when someone's trying to put something into a fireplace. So an insert, when we use an insert is an actual fireplace that's getting inserted into a brick and mortar clay-lined chimney fireplace. So in a case like that, so if somebody has a full masonry, brick and mortar clay-lined chimney fireplace, yes, there are ventless inserts that can be put into that. Then in some cases, what I find that folks, when they say insert, they actually are asking, can I put a ventless log set? They sometimes think a log set is just an insert and you're just buying a log set and you're inserting it. So a log set, if it is same thing, if it is a full brick and mortar clay-lined chimney fireplace that is vented, yes, you can put a ventless gas log set into it, okay? The challenge on the other side of not a masonry, what they call a prefabricated wood burning fireplace, like a metal fireplace that has a metal chimney flue. We want to check with the manufacturers because not all of those fireplaces when they were built were applicable to use a ventless product inside of it and could only use a vented product, meaning a vented gas log or wood burning. So those are, just to kind of give a quick answer to the customer's question, that's that. But always give us a call. And we're always happy to, so that our customers understand what they have, what they're asking for, and then we can guide them into the right direction.
Tom, thank you for the question. We really appreciate you listening in. And I know that's a little more cumbersome of an answer than what you were looking for, but we do want to keep you safe. So make sure, give us a call if you want to continue the conversation. We'd love to chat with you. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We really appreciate you out there and hope that you enjoy the show. Give us a call, shoot us a question. We really appreciate it, Tom, so we'll tackle yours as well. As always, you've been listening to the Experts in Fire podcast. Thank you for listening to the Experts in Fire podcast. Next time, we'll be discussing 3 tips for the pros when installing a gas fire pit. We'll see you then. There are multiple ways you can get in contact with us and also to see some of the projects we've helped customers and contractors bring to life. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at Woodland Direct.